In this video, we will cover percentaging simple frequency distributions and creating cumulative distributions using Excel. Here's a simple frequency distribution showing reported number of sexual partners in the last year. So, for example, 12 individuals reported 0 sexual partners in the last 12 months. Now, the first thing we'll do is to create a percentage column. Here's the formula for percentage. You'll notice we need an F, or frequency, and N, the total sample size. Here are the frequencies, but we don't have an N, so we'll start by calculating that. In order to sum all of the frequencies, we're going to use Excel's function property. You can get to Excel's function by either typing an equal sign into a cell or by clicking this Insert Function button. If you type sum and select Go, you'll notice the first result is sum, which adds all the numbers in a range of cells, which is what we want. So we'll select OK. And a window comes up asking us to select the range of numbers we want to add. So we can click and drag a box around all of the frequencies, press OK, and it gives us the sum, which in this case is 61, which is the total number of cases. We'll start by calculating the percentage for individuals who chose the option 11 partners. Now you'll notice the frequency is 0, so we expect that the percentage will be 0 as well, but we'll use the formula just to be sure. Again, formula is 100 times the frequency divided by n, or the sample size. Again, in order to create a calculation within Excel, first we type an equal sign. This tells Excel that whatever comes after the equal sign involves a calculation. The formula is 100 times the frequency, in this case 0, and you can click on the cell itself and you'll notice it enters the coordinates for that cell in your formula. This is in column B and in row 2. Frequency divided by n, or the total sample size. You'll notice I put this part of the equation in the parentheses. That's because I want Excel to do that part of the calculation first. When I click Enter, you'll see that it produces a result of 0. If I double click on this cell, the formula will show up again, and it will also show me which cells were used in the calculation. The nice thing about Excel is that by selecting the lower right corner of a cell and dragging, we can copy a formula into adjacent cells without writing it all over again. Uh-oh. You'll notice a bunch of pound signs. This means something went wrong. If we click on the exclamation point icon, you'll see that it's a divide by 0 error. Now, it should not have divided by 0. It should have divided by n. So let's double click on one of these cells to see what happened. You'll notice that when the formula moved from row 2 into row 3, it also moved the frequency that was used from row 2 to row 3, which is good. However, it also moved the cell that has n down 1 as well, which doesn't have anything in it. What we want is we want it to calculate percentages for each of the frequencies, but to always divide by the same cell, this cell here. So we can fix this problem by using the $sign. The $sign in Excel tells Excel not to move. So if we put a $sign before the B in the denominator of this equation, it tells Excel not to move from column B. And if we put a $sign before the 14, it tells Excel not to move from row 14. And so combined, those two $signs tell Excel that even if we move the equation somewhere else, that it should still use the cell that contains n. Again, you'll see that it still has the correct percentage. But now, when we click and drag, the correct numbers show up. And if we click on one of these, we'll see that it used the correct frequency and also stayed at B14, which is where our n is. Now, just to be sure that Excel has calculated these percentages correctly, I'm going to go ahead and sum all of these percents. Lo and behold, the sum of all the individual percents adds up to 100%. This is a good way to check whether the percents you have calculated are correct. All of the percents should add up to 100%. Next, I'm going to talk about cumulative distributions. As your book mentions, a cumulative frequency is defined as the total number of cases having any given score or a score that is lower. Because of the definition of cumulative frequencies, we always have to start a cumulative frequency column from the lowest value, or the lowest score. In this case, 0. So in this case, we'll start at the bottom and work our way up. The cumulative frequency for 0 is the frequency of people that selected 0 and anyone that selected less than 0. In this case, no one selected less than 0. 0 is the lowest score, and so the cumulative frequency is simply 12. That is, there are 12 respondents that had a score of 0 or less. For the next cell, people that responded 1, I'm going to start using Excel's calculating ability again. And so I'll start with an equal sign. And the cumulative frequency for those who said that they had one sexual partner in the last 12 months is the frequency that chose 1, in this case 36, plus everything below that score, which in this case is 12, or the number that selected 0. This gives us an answer of 48. There are 36 people that chose 1 and 12 that chose 0, and so there are 48 individuals who had one or fewer sexual partners in the last 12 months. At this point, I can take this cell and drag it up. And you'll see, for example, if I look at people who chose 3 partners, the cumulative frequency, that is, the frequency that selected 3 or fewer, is equal to the frequency that selected 3 plus everything below it, which in this case is the cumulative frequency of the previous score. And as we can see, the equation uses the frequency for 3 and the cumulative frequency below it. You'll notice that the final cumulative frequency, 61, is equal to the sample size. Again, this is a good way to check and make sure you did the calculations correctly. The final cumulative frequency should always equal the total number of cases. Now, for cumulative percent, the textbook provides this formula, 100 times the cumulative frequency over n, very similar to the equation for percent. And we can calculate this using a very similar equation to the way we calculated percent. So again, I start with an equal sign, then I type 100 times cumulative frequency divided by n. Now again, I'm going to want to copy this formula into other cells, and I want Excel to not move from the n value, and so I'm going to put a $ before the b and before the 14 in the denominator. This gives us a result of 19.67%. Just as the cumulative frequency for the lowest score is the same as its frequency, the cumulative percentage for the lowest score is the same as its percentage. Now again, I select the lower right corner and drag to the top of the distribution. And there we have the cumulative percentages. Just like with cumulative frequency, the cumulative percentage should be at the very highest score equal to the total percent. And to interpret the cumulative percentage column, if we take, for example, people that selected 7 partners, we can say that 95.08% of this sample had 7 or fewer partners in the last 12 months.